In this video, we're going to take a look at a couple of gadgets that fall into the category of supporting cast for both GMRS and ham radios, along with a couple of travel-related gadgets that help keep you and your data secure. Let's get started. I often get comments on my videos where folks complain about battery life or the fact that their radios go dead after a couple of weeks with little or no use. Others complain about their device's charge just isn't lasting as long as it used to. This first device provides you with some insight into what may be happening. This is a little tiny USB-C power, voltage, and ammeter. When plugged in line with the device you're charging and the charging source, it gives you a bunch of data regarding what's going into your device. As this image shows, you can see voltage, current, wattage, watt hours, the time connected, and current direction. It supports fast charging as well as power delivery connections up to 12 amps. There's also a small button on the back to change up the display a little. I've used photos since the device is pretty small. Let's change cameras and zoom in to see what the device does in action. So you can probably see why I've been using pictures to describe this. Here's the tip of my finger. It's just no longer than the first two knuckles here on my index finger. I've got it plugged into this ham radio, little TID radio here. And then you can see in the display it's got 4.8 volts going in. It's pulling 1.04 amps, 5 watts. And then the real small numbers, I've had it plugged in for about 4 minutes while I've been messing around here. 79 milliamp hours have gone in. And you can see some movement right there by my fingertip that shows that the current is flowing this way. Now there's a little button under here so we can make a change to the screen. And so here you can see we've changed some of the data. Most of it's remained the same, but we've got the max voltage, watts, and so forth here in this little box instead of that full screen. And so we'll go back to that main display. And so you can see how this little guy works. It's bright, it's colorful, it's easy to see. Hopefully you can see it there in the camera with the colors on the black background. But that's the little USB-C voltmeter, power meter, and watt meter. So, how might you use this? Here are a couple of ideas. First, you can check the output of your charging device. Is it really a fast charger or a PD device? By plugging in the USB power meter in line, you'll know what it's outputting. Now, keep in mind the cable and the device itself influence this too. Next, if you have a radio that seems to be losing power when sitting on the shelf, you can fully charge the radio, turn it off, and set it aside. After a couple of days, you can plug in the USB power meter in line with your charger, reset the meter to 0, and recharge the battery. When full, you'll be able to compute the amount of battery capacity that was lost during the time the radio was on the shelf. While this isn't something you can fix, you'll at least know how often you should plan to recharge a seldom used radio. Another idea would be to track the milliamp hours you put into your radio's battery after use. If you normally keep the radio on and with you during the day, after several days' use and recording, you'll establish a sense of what the normal discharge is. When the recharge amount starts to go up, it can be an indicator that your battery is starting to fail, giving you some warning when to get another battery. A similar device, but on a larger scale, is another watt meter. These watt meters are often used with solar panels, and I got my first one with my electric RC airplanes. These devices go in line with your power source to a mobile or base station style radio. These devices will show you the voltage, amperage, amp hours, wattage, and watt hours for your radio. As this clip will show, this allows you to find out the radio's power consumption both while receiving and when transmitting at various output levels. 0.9 amps just in the receive mode. I've got it hooked up to a dummy load, so I'm not transmitting outward. So let's push the push to talk button and see what kind of amperage we get on low power with this radio. So we got about 1.73 amps on low power. So that's really not very much with 5 watts going out. Now let's change the GMRS channel and go up to one of the high power channels and see what we get there. Okay, so now we're up on GMRS channel 19, and so we'll hit the push to talk button and see what we get here. So we've got about 3.83 amps here on high power, and when I've tested this radio, it transmits at about 15 or 16 watts. So we've got 3.86 at 16 watts output. Knowing the current draw when transmitting on high power and then comparing it to the accessory port's current limit prevents blowing fuses or damaging the circuit. Larger radios can easily exceed accessory port limits and will need to be wired directly into the vehicle's battery. Some premium brands will give you this information in the specifications section of the owner's manual. However, some don't. The second reason you may want to know these numbers is when computing battery capacity for a Go box or other portable operation. That might mean helping you choose the right battery for your application or altering your expectations when choosing to use a battery you already have. An easy-to-use inline power meter is a really simple way to accomplish this. I'll link a video on the end card that goes into much more detail on computing battery capacity. The meter I've linked in the description below includes Anderson power poles that you can install. Most of my radio power connections are made with Anderson connectors, and I recommend them, if you're just starting out especially. Take my advice and get a power pole crimper. Don't try and use a general purpose crimper to attach the connectors. If the crimp isn't perfect for the red and black housings, the contacts won't fit into them. Hey, if you're finding this video helpful, please click the thumbs up button below and be sure to subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel if you haven't already. There are thanks and join buttons below if you'd like to support the channel more directly. I really appreciate it. The next gadget on this little list is a USB-C cable tester. If you're like me, you have a whole bunch of USB-C cables laying around the house. You may not be aware that there are several kinds of cables, and unfortunately, they all look alike. Most of the cables that come with radios are charge-only cables. The wires connected to the pins that are assigned to data transfer are omitted. If you've ever been frustrated by a cable that doesn't work, it's likely that it works just fine but isn't meant for data transfer. The Tredex cable tester is one of many on Amazon. Use the link below to get the right category and then explore the form factors and price points for one that you like. Let's take a quick look at what it is and how it works. Now, this is the USB-C cable tester, and it came in a little kit. So the circuit board under there comes in one piece. This little piece of plexiglass comes in another, and then there's a little screw kit that comes with it, and even a little screwdriver there. And so the bottom legs go in, then the risers, and then another little screw that holds this all together. It also comes with this battery, and right here there's a little switch that you can switch it to a USB-C input for power, or you can switch it this way for the battery for power. And so you can then see that all of the various cable pinouts are here, and they each have a little LED on them, and you'll see that here in just a second. And then on the back, it's got definitions of what these are, and so you can see And so what we're going to be looking for on most of these is the D minus and the D plus. Those are both data. All of these are described. We'll also on the ground, the V bus is the voltage bus. So that means there's power going to the thing. Here again is D plus and D minus. And so the owner's guide here has these charts and it describes what should be lit depending upon the function. Now, in most cases, these things are just going to be, as I mentioned, that D plus and D minus for data, but there are some other possibilities and they're explained pretty well here in the book. So let's give this thing a try. And so we're going to start by turning it on. So I'm going to use the battery. And then what we're going to do is we're going to plug, in this case, a charge-only cable. So we've got a charge cable here. I'm going to plug it into a USB-A connection there. And then this is a USB-C. So I'm going to look over here for my USB-C, which is this one. And I'm going to plug that cable in there. And then you can see here that the ground, the V-bus, is powered. And then over here, the ground and V-bus is powered, and it's charge only. So you can see the D plus and the D minus are not illuminated. So I've marked this with a little Sharpie. I've tested this before. So I know this is a charge only cable. Now let's go to a data cable. Now this is the data cable, so I'll plug that in here. And then this is a USB micro, and that one is down here. So I'm going to plug that in down here. It's this one right here. So I'm going to plug that in, get it the right direction. And so now we've got that one plugged in. So we've got the ground, and we've got the shield illuminated, and we've got the V bus or the voltage bus illuminated. So here you can see the D plus and the D minus are illuminated, which means that this is a data cable. So that's very cool. We've got that. So that was easy to check. And so now I'm going to plug in another data cable. This is a USB 3.0 style cable. I'm going to plug it in up here, which is the USB 3.0 input on the A-type plug. And then this one is a USB-C. So I'm going to plug that in over here. And you can see over here then that it's got the ground, it's got the voltage bus, D minus, D plus, another voltage bus, and then the ground here on the bottom. And so this indicates that it is a data type cable. So that's how this little guy works. So you can go through there and mark your cables so that you have the type of cable you want. And when you're grabbing for it, it's easy to recognize. I've started testing my pile of cables, and I use a silver Sharpie to mark them with either a C or a D, depending on whether they're just charge or can also transfer data. The tester's owner's manual does a good job of describing the pinouts as outlined in this photo. This model also has dual power inputs. You can use the included button-style battery or move a small switch to use the external USB-C power source. I've found that occasionally I won't get a display indicator, but will get the display when inverting the USB-C cable in the socket. Now that shouldn't matter, but it's happened. Knowing the kind of cable you have is important for a couple of reasons. One, you won't be frustrated when discovering your cable doesn't transfer data when you need it to. If you keep a cable travel pouch for your trips, you can decide what type or both you might want to include. Second, the reverse of this is also true. With stories about what's called juice jacking, where bad actors access devices through public USB ports in places like airports, using a charge-only cable can help prevent unauthorized access to your device. This brings us to the next gadget on our list. While not really a radio-related device, since we're talking about travel threats, let's look at a set of USB data blockers. Like the name suggests, these small little inline gadgets break the circuit on the data-related pins in a USB cable. With a set of these little guys, you can limit your travel pouch to data-capable cables and simply insert the data blocker in line with the cable to prevent data transfer when you need to charge your device, especially when using a public USB port. There are a bunch of brands and kits for these little devices on Amazon, so pick the one that works for you. Let's use the USB cable tester to demonstrate how an inline data blocker works. So here's an example of the data blocker kits that are available on Amazon. It comes in a nice little plastic case here. And this one is a multi-output. It plugs into, like a laptop, a USB-A type connector. And then it's got another USB-A here. So if you happen to have that kind of a device, you could plug that through, or you can go to a C cable on either one of those sides. Now, more likely, you're going to be using one of these, which is a USB-A on this side and then a C on this side, so it would plug directly into, your laptop or another device with a USB-A, and then plug your USB-C cable in here. Or if you have a USB-C input, like many new laptops do, you could use this one, and this USB-C would plug into your device, and then USB-C would accept the cable from your charge port, which is the reason you're using a data blocker, because you want to charge it, not transfer data. So let's bring the USB-C cable tester back over here and show you how this works. Okay, so I still have this blue data cable connected to my cable tester here. Remember, we looked at that already. And when we plug it into the USB-C, we end up with these two, D plus and D minus, illuminated because it's the data cable. But now let's watch and see what happens when we put the data blocker in line. So we'll plug this in here and then plug this into the USB-C. And then now you can see that the D plus and the D minus are not illuminated, which means that if you're using a public charging port like the seat in an airport or in the back of an airplane, your device isn't under threat of someone who might be juice jacking you through the USB port. So these are really handy, and you can see here how that works. It blocks the data connections in the cable so that all you're getting is the ground and the V bus, which is the two lines that handle charging for your device. Our last gadget is also travel related. If you're a road warrior or use short-term rentals for trips and vacation, this device will scan a room for wireless devices such as microphones and cameras. Unfortunately, there are lots of stories of travelers discovering monitor devices in private spaces. Gadgets like this detector can help. These come in a variety of price points, but seem to work in a very similar fashion. This very inexpensive model has a couple of settings and features. It has adjustable sensitivity settings for sensing wireless signals, GPS tracker signals, and infrared emitters that can help you see other IR signals like those from motion detection cameras. You can also use it for a door alarm by hanging it from your hotel door handle. When it senses motion, it sounds an alarm. Here's a quick clip of the detector in action. And now for this quick demo for the detector, you can see it's really small. Depending on which buttons you push here, is the mode that you go into. For example, you can use this lanyard that we see here and hang it on your doorknob if you have it in the motion or alarm mode. And if someone opens the door, it'll just start to beep. You're going to hear those beeps here in a second when I turn it on. And then it's got an antenna that allows you to scan around for the various inputs, whether it's GPS, Wi-Fi, and so forth. And then over here, if you can slide this up, when you put this into the IR mode, these will emit infrared, and then you can look through here and you can see if you're getting reflections like from a camera or get reflections from something else that's emitting something. So another motion sensor that uses IR for its motion sensing. So those are the basic roles that it's going to play. So let's turn this on to start with. And you can see there's one light illuminated here. If we push these down, see we are changing the modes here, the flashlight mode. And then we can change the Wi-Fi, and then another press, and you can't tell, but it's vibrating now. And so we can either have a beep or we can have a vibration, as you might not want to let somebody know that you're looking for a bug in your room. So that's what we've got here. You can hear it. Now with a short press, when it's in Wi-Fi mode, we can add to the sensitivity. So now you can see there's 2, there's 3, all the way up. And I found that when I get it all the way up, it just runs all the time. Now I've got a little tracking card here, and the goal is to see whether it senses the Wi-Fi coming from this little tracking card. And there you can see it did. I brought the tracking card within just a few inches of this device, and you can see that it set off the alarm. So that's kind of how this little guy works. I'm going to turn it off here. These come in a wide variety of price points. As I've said, I suspect the higher priced ones are going to have better range. This is very inexpensive. And you saw that I had to get the antenna fairly close to this Wi-Fi emitter here in this little tracking card that was able to set off the sensor in the detector. I hope you found this video and these devices interesting and helpful. Again, please like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Join me over here for my battery capacity video. Thanks for watching.